Hello, in this tutorial we're going to continue with our midterm project, hoping to prepare it for final render. So hopefully you guys have taken a look at the lighting tutorials that I've created where I talked about the two different types of light and a little bit about shadows. In this tutorial I want to talk about how we prepare for final render. So we're going to start looking at a lot of the details with the lighting, the textures, materials, shadows, and some of the render settings. And then also this week I want to show you how you would render out an image sequence and create a video of your animation. So let's get started. As you can see in my scene, I have a lighting setup. I have two directional lights. And while I talked about 3-point lighting, in this one I don't have a rim light. I just have my main key light, which has the shadows attached, which I have ray trace shadows, and that's coming at an angle, and then kind of at an opposite angle to fill in some of the shadows we have our fill light. And I'm going to go ahead and do a test render using Maya software with ray tracing turned off. Okay, let's just see where we are. Alright, and I think my render settings are a little large at the moment as well, so I'm going to go in the common tab and take this down to about 640 by 480 for the moment and re-render. I guess I have to re-render here. Okay. What I'm looking at right now is that the scene is evenly lit, but I do like variation where there's some bright spots and some dark spots, a little bit of contrast throughout, but you don't want things that are too bright where they begin to lose detail. Things become blown out, so to speak. I guess that's a phrase I've heard with photography. You want to avoid that. So if your light is too bright, you're going to start losing detail, like here and here, and that detail is gone. All it is pure white. Your texture, your material has a lot to do with how fast a material will blow out like that. But at this point I like to adjust my lights at something that's kind of even and then come back to the materials later on how they diffuse or reflect the light. So to me, I'm going to leave that at about 1, and I did put a slight blue tint, maybe a little bit bluer, something a little brighter. Alright, so I'm looking at lights here. Nothing's blown out. The scene looks a little on the dark side still, a little like the whole thing needs to be brightened up. So I might go ahead and create just a point light without any sort of I don't want any shadow on this. Make sure shadows are off. Yeah, and just put it above the scene, and just so this is what we had. I'm going to archive that and then render another one with my new light. See if there's any difference. There's a little bit of difference, and this would be a good time too if you wanted to put any sort of color. Let's see what that does. You see hints of pink now. You're starting to see that on the top of the rim, which you didn't see before. Let's take that up a little bit more since it's got some fall off to it. Now things are starting to get blown out. So we'll leave that at about 6. Maybe pull that down instead of adjust. On the shoulders it's starting to get blown out. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for areas that may be too bright like that. And I could probably turn on my shadows and solve some of that, but I'm just going to take that down, and that's more evenly lit. So the next thing I want to take a look at is our materials. So I'm looking at the snow. I'm relatively pleased with this, but where you would go, and I'm looking at my tree textures as well. To open those up, you go into your Hypershade, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. Wait for that to pop up and find my snow material. And your Hypershade has two main windows, and if you don't see, well, I guess you have three windows. You have all this stuff here, which you can move it out of the way if you'd like. And you may only see one window. You can see the top one or the bottom one or both. And what it is these are your current materials, and this is a work area where you can kind of map them out. So I'm going to drag my middle mouse drag my snow material, and to see the input connections I want to click this button here, and we have a noise coming into it as a bump map, and there's your 2D place node for your texture. So I'm going to click on the noise material, and I have ray tracing off, so my IPR should work, and we can this is when you would go in and do some final tweaks on your texture if needed. You may be very satisfied with your snow. And I've noticed, I think the amplitude and the ratio is what kind of smooths it out. The lower the, and this threshold kind of can make it kind of irregular in certain areas, along with the ratio. Now I messed it all up. I had something decent to begin with, but go for something that looks, I've almost taken all my bump out. I want just a tiny bit of bump in there. Something like that to me looks nice. Alright, render the whole thing. So to me that's pretty good. So we've taken a look at the lights and the materials. My tree material may be a little bit dark. What I did is I took the material that was on my snowman coal and just threw it on the tree. I could lighten that up just a hair by taking the diffuse up. I don't think that's responding, and maybe the reflectivity down some. Oh, that's the wrong one. Oh, that's why it wasn't making a difference. Let's select our. Alright, now let's try that again. So we get our IPR. We're looking at that tree material, and as I take that up, this begins to lighten. So alright, I'm going to call that okay for now. I just lightened it up, and also lightened it up the ones that use that material for the coal.